And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome, everyone, to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region on this Saturday, August 30th, 2025. And in the weather-related headlines, high water and flooding continues on a number of the river basins in the western, central, and southern mainland, including the Kobuk, Koyukuk, Susitna basins. That would include the Talkeetna and Yetna rivers. There is the potential for more rain and prolonged high water across areas of the west through early this upcoming week as another round of some rain moves in starting this Saturday night and continuing into Tuesday. And then in the southeast, thanks to high pressure, ridge of high pressure that's kind of anchored there, continued very warm and dry, especially the southern panhandle. And then as far as solar activity has been rather high lately. There's the potential 25% chance of X flares, 75% chance of M flares. And now that we finally have more darkness at night, we are now entering the early aurora viewing season across the state. So if you have clear skies, kind of monitor the solar activity. And if we do get a good flare or two, there may be a chance of seeing a better display of the northern lights coming up here in the days ahead. Well, up there on the Kobuk River, Shagnik has some showers, caught a rainbow in this FAA camera image, 45 degrees, so there's that feel of early fall. And then we have Allakaket on the Koyukuk, partly sunny, 48. The river crested over the past day or so, quite high. There are flood warnings that remain in effect for Allakaket as well as Hughes, though the water levels at Hughes will not be as high as they were at Allakaket. And then for Talkeetna, the Talkeetna River has had up to moderate flooding there. Last night the river peaked, so there's been high water there running on the north end of town where the riprap is along the river there to help reduce erosion. And all through the Susitna Valley, we either have flood advisories or the warning on the Talkeetna. There's also a warning on the Yetna River at and above Lake Creek. That area saw a record crest as well this Saturday morning. So it's been pretty active on the rivers, trying to just dump out all of this heavy rainfall that occurred in the past week. Ketchikan, though, enjoying mostly sunny skies, a few high cirrus clouds, mostly sunny, 66 degrees. And southern panhandle, you're going to see some warmer temperatures than that, getting back up into the 70s this week. A few spots could even hit 80 degrees once again. So this is the 3-day rainfall forecast that goes for today, Sunday, and into Monday. And we find, again, areas of the western interior could pick up as much as easily 2-3 inches of rainfall. Bettles westward toward Ambler and Red Dog. That's why there's a flood watch up for this region, already having received all of that rain last week. And we also have a southerly flow that's going to produce some heavier rainfall around and above Togiak and Dillingham in the higher terrain, maybe over 3 inches of rainfall, a couple inches of rain easily in town. Cold Bay, Falls Pass, also where you have terrain enhancement. Some of the rainfall could be as much as 3 to 5 inches as we have this southerly flow coming up out of the North Pacific along a frontal boundary that'll be pressing inland. So right now I'll highlight we have flood warnings for Allakaket and Hughes. We have a flood advisory for Kobuk, and then we have flood warnings at Talkeetna and the Yetna River at and above Lake Creek. And these warnings are in effect through late this Saturday night and into Sunday before river levels level off or start coming down. In some places they're already doing that, but again, this water is working through the system. So if you're downstream from those locations, you're seeing higher water, the water coming up. And we have a flood watch in effect here for that area. Red Dog, eastward through Bettles and down to Haisley. This area already having received, so you have the Kobuk, Noatak, and Koyukuk River basins potentially going to pick up easily another 1 to 3 inches of rainfall now through Tuesday. So that could contribute to a continuation, prolonged high water levels, and possibly some additional flooding. Also down here around Togiak, Dillingham inland, especially up along any rising terrain, rainfall could be moderate to locally heavy now into Monday morning as a result of this frontal boundary that is slowly pushing its way eastward. So fire danger, the fire weather season, the fire season is over with, except one little pocket, upper Tanana Valley around Tok, Northway. Still have some very high fire danger there as it's been dry, and that will continue into next week. We're not looking for much in the way of rain. So this is the only potential hot spot where there could be a fire there. The other area is down here in the southern panhandle. Not expecting any notable fires, but if you get a little brush fire or grass fire, that's certainly with the drier conditions and very warm temperatures coming up here this weekend through next week could lend toward an increased fire danger. So on the satellite imagery this Saturday afternoon, we have ridge of high pressure down here, North Pacific into the Gulf. Low pressure out here in the Bering just to the north of the central western Aleutians, and this is that front arcing ahead, pushing into the west coast along the YK deltas, Bristol Bay, and that southerly flow of moisture tapping into the tropics, coming up out of the North Pacific through the southeast Bering and along the west side of the state. And here's the way the weather map look later this Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Here's the high pressure over the Gulf, North Pacific. There'll be some clouds. There could be a few clouds along the Panhandle and certainly in through South Central, but here's the area of low pressure in the central Bering, and it has a couple of fronts rotating around it. First one kind of weakening and washing out. This will be the next push of moisture and gusty winds. And as that comes inland on Sunday, we will find a band of rain. Some of that rain could be moderate and locally heavy where you might have some terrain enhancement, especially here along western Bristol Bay and along the terrain there of the Alaska Peninsula. And then as we head into Monday, the front just gradually pushes inland. Some pretty warm air. The southeast mainland with some sunshine. We'll see warm temperatures again, as will the Panhandle. The low kind of just sits there and fills a little bit over the central Bering. And then on Tuesday, that low just further weakens, but the front continues to press northeastward, and then it stalls out along the western Gulf, south central, back into the North Pacific, waiting for another wave of low pressure to come up along that for midweek. But in the meantime, the Panhandle stays generally dry and very warm through early parts of the week. In fact, it's likely to persist through much of the upcoming week after the holiday. So Sunday morning lows, you can feel a little tinge of cooler weather in places like, early fall feel, even though it's still relatively mild in some locations. It has cooled off in through the central interior, lows in the 40s. Near freezing in some areas say, along the spine of the north, along the Brooks Range, North Slope, and Arctic Coast. A few areas could be down around or just below freezing. Otherwise, still some 50s in the Panhandle. Warmest temperatures on Sunday, going to be lower 70s, Klawock and Ketchikan, Metlakatla. Maybe approaching 70 at Northway, but in the 60s. Depends on cloud cover and such. But with the cloudier skies and areas of rain, temperatures are kept in the 50s across the lower, middle, and upper Yukon, maybe 60-ish there around Fairbanks and Anchorage. And then for Monday morning, we have lows. Again, not terribly cool in the far north, generally upper 30s to mid 40s. And then as we get into the along the Yukon River and the various tributaries, we have lows generally around 50-ish. And then some 40s in the Copper River Basin, and then out here and through the Panhandle, if you have any clear skies, upper 40s, Skagway, Juneau, Petersburg. And then temperatures Monday afternoon, we are looking for 81, Craig, near 80, Ketchikan, Metlakatla, probably have a heat advisory for this part of the Panhandle. Again, warm, very warm temperatures there and dry. Also seeing some warmer temperatures as the ridge tries to build a little bit back to the northwest. We're going to see those warmer temperatures in the lower 70s, maybe up there to Eagle and through Northway, perhaps even Glen Ellen could, with some sunshine, could get back up around or above 70. Otherwise, readings generally in the 50s across the central southwest interior. And here is the extended temperature outlook, September 5th through the 9th. Temperatures overall are expected to average above normal, especially over the southeast mainland, along the Gulf Coast, and the Panhandle, with near normal temperatures around Norton Sound, Kotzebue Sound, the Seward Peninsula, and the Lisburn Peninsula. Precipitation-wise, it should be below normal, so cooler than normal temperatures, precipitation below normal, so drier than normal conditions prevailing across the central southern Panhandle, with precipitation averaging a bit above normal across the mainland. There's no 1 or 2 big storms anticipated in that time frame, but keeping some moisture coming up in either off the Bering or out of the Gulf and North Pacific. So overall, this is our wettest time of year. So again, even a little bit above normal means wetter conditions than what we would typically expect here as we get into the early portion of September.